because we'll do a bit of an intro first, and we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another live movie musical commentary with Before the Downbeat, a musical podcast. I am your regular co-host, Mackenzie, and today we are doing something a bit different. Usually, when we do these live movie musicals, we are doing it where we are covering a show we've already covered on the podcast, whether that's Little Shop, to West Side, to Cats, and this time, we are going about it a different way. We are actually doing a show that has not yet become a stage show, but was a huge movie musical smash hit. And that is, of course, The Greatest Showman, starring Hugh Jackman as P.T. Barnum. And this was a show that kind of was like Titanic, where it came out, it didn't make a killing at the box office, but it just kept hanging on and was consistently in the top 10 week after week after week until it made this exorbitant amount of money. It became this big cultural hit. And we'll get it more into the film and some of its problematic elements, and other topics that kind of sprang up from this piece. But this was really a passion project for Mr. Hugh Jackman. This was something that he championed for almost 10 years before it got made. And this was kind of his dream movie musical to do. So this was something that he did and started and kind of shepherded all the way through the pre-show stuff with the executives. Like there's a very famous video of him coming out of Lily's skin cancer surgery where he had like 80 stitches in his nose. And then they said, you can't sing because you'll blow all your stitches out. And sure enough, he did it. He Lily got to the end. He's usually there during that executive promotion day, and he sang the whole show and blew out a majority of those stitches in his nose, but he sold the show. And that was something he did. And I gotta say that this was not something that was going to be potentially on my radar, but my wonderful co-host tonight, Mr. Jamie Knox, who is joining us here. He is a friend of mine all the way from my days at Stratford Shakespeare School. Our Cup of Hemlock fans probably would have seen him on our stage play episode all about the tragedy of Macbeth. But he suggested this because he reached out saying, "Have you like what are your thoughts on this?" I said, "Well, I got thoughts. Uh, it's a very interesting film." And so then it was okay. Like, why don't we talk about it on the podcast? And so, sure enough, this is what we're doing. So, Jamie, why don't you give us the rundown? Give us a bit of an intro on who are you and how did you come to this film?
Hey everybody, yeah, I'm Jamie. I'm a writer director, and yep, I'm currently got a feature film that's just finishing up and going to be released in 2023.
Woo!
Got to do a little plug for that. Yeah, so I'm really excited to be on here. I've, like Mackenzie said, I've known him since our days at Stratford Camp way back in
Mm-hmm,
the day, which was
mm-hmm,
awesome. Great times. And yeah, we kept in touch over the years
mm-hmm,
with Mackenzie doing his thing and me doing my thing.
mm-hmm,
It's funny. I had taken a break from the movie musicals for a while, and
mm-hmm.
my now fiance back
Woo!
in the day was my girlfriend. She had suggested, "Oh, we got to watch this movie. I love this movie. It's so good." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, it looks a little corny, but I'll check it out." And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I think the more I really liked it when I first watched it, and I would say the more I watch it, which sometimes I'm forced to watch it sometimes. So sometimes, but the more I do watch it, the more I end up liking it and appreciating it more and more each time. So I'm really excited to be talking about it, and I think it's a very underrated and well done film. Yeah, there are for sure some problems and issues that a lot of people can bring up about it, but we shall discuss those issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'll say for me, I went and saw this in theaters when it came out. This was one of those things I saw the trailer for. I went, okay. I'd seen La La Land, which is also which features the same songwriters that for this one, which is uh, uh, Benjamin Pesk and Justin Paul, who
Right.
also wrote Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah,
as well. It should be noted. This was one of their projects, so I was like, okay, seen La La Land. It it wasn't my favorite movie of that year. I was very happy that Moonlight won over La La Land. I thought La La Land was a bit overrated, to be honest. So I was like, okay, let's see what this other project of theirs is, because it's got the same type of musical sound. So I was like, okay, I'm game. Let's play. Let's see what this is. And sure, if I came out of it going, okay, that was solid. That was a solid movie musical. We'll get into the historical inaccuracies later, and but if whether or not that is something we should be condoning in movie musicals,
yeah,
or just in film in general, like how like where is the line of where do we draw the line with historical inaccuracy storytelling when you're portraying
for
real
sure.
people and their history. So we'll get into that as the film progresses, because there's definitely a particular turning points where I'm like, ooh, okay, bit too much dramatic license here. Clearly made for the film. But so either way, so yeah, so I came out of it watching it, and then I think I watched it one more time when it came out on digital. Because
Hmm.
I mean, I had the album. The music is something that really stuck with me. Like the
Yeah, it's
song
beautiful.
"Never Enough." When we get to that song, that's my favorite song of the
Mm.
whole piece. And we'll get into the whole concept of dubbing and the ethics behind that, and how we should work with that. Because I'm never opposed to dubbing. I think it's because it just comes down to giving the people the right credit for what they do.
Well,
And
yeah, because you told me about that. I had no idea that it was
yeah,
she was dubbed.
yeah, she was dubbed. Rebecca Ferguson was dubbed. And we'll get into that because the actress who dubbed her just came out as a contestant on Britain's Got Talent and sang this song. And her claim to fame was she said, "Yeah, I was the dubbed voice of this person." And a majority of the audience were like, "What? What? No!" And it's like Rebecca Ferguson told everybody when she did this that
Mm.
this she did not sing this piece, and yet
Yeah,
nobody kind of gave the actress the credit for the
yeah,
vocal work. So we'll get into that scene when we get there. But yeah, so I came out of this, watched it on digital, listened to the album a lot, and there's quite a few good songs, there's quite a few good earworms that I find. I like this album more than I like La La Land's music. That's
yeah.
for sure.
I would agree with that. I would say that I think the music is better, and I want to warn everyone in advance. I am watching this next to my fiance.
Ooh.
If you hear someone crying in the background, because she gets very emotional watching this movie, so if you hear crying,
It's
everything's
okay.
okay.
Hey,
Yeah,
emotions
it's
are
all good.
good.
Don't worry.
We
Um,
love a good
happy cry.
emotional response to a film. That means this film has done its job.
Yeah,
In
and I think that's why it's so special for us too with this
mm-hmm,
film because seeing her have that such a strong emotional
mm-hmm,
response to it, and then realizing how great the film really
mm-hmm,
is over the few times I watched it, and I mean to the point we've even like when we got our new TV and our 4K player, like Greatest
yeah,
Showman was one of those I picked up, and it looks fantastic in 4K.
yes,
It's anyways, we'll get into details
yeah.
later, but I'm
We will get
excited to
into
talk.
all those details.
Yeah,
But I would say let's start. I am watching it on Disney Plus, where
no,
you can stream it, and you are watching it on your 4K
got the 4K
version.
copy. Yeah,
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna hit play. We're starting
okay.
from the very beginning with the opening credits, and of
Yeah, I
course we
have some
have the late
pre
great. Hmm?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to add some pre FBI titles before. Do you want me to
Ah,
skip over those?
yeah, sure.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. Okay, I'm just going to click play. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
whenever you're ready.
perfect. I'm hitting play.
Okay.
And of course, we have the great old 20th Century Fox logo.
Yes. And it looks like
And
really vintage too. It's cool.
it's very vintage. And of course, we all know now it is no longer 20th Century Fox. It is now just 20th Century Studios, because Disney bought 20th Century Fox.
What didn't Disney buy? Disney bought everything.
Disney is currently playing the buying game and is continuing.
Yeah.
I mean, that is that would be the long lasting legacy of Bob Iger. It's Bob Iger.
Yeah. For
Um,
good and bad.
because I mean, there's a lot of good he did, but also I'm never a fan of when one studio or one company buys up its competition to the point where there is no longer any competition.
Yes. Yes. I
So
think things need to feel individual. Like Star Wars is never going to feel like it was with Lucas,
Yeah,
right? It's just not.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And
I
I
love
mean,
this opening.
right? It's so cool, right? Like
The lighting's
immediately you're drawn
beautiful.
into this piece.
The silhouette, the way they
Yes,
introduced him, great opening
yes.
shot.
Because I mean, when you're going into this movie, you already know that Hugh Jackman's playing P.T. Barnum. So the fact that you're then hiding his appearance, you're building it up, right? It's one of those great things where circuses do nothing for people anymore. Like circuses have gone the way,
Yeah,
sadly, unless you're Cirque du Soleil. But like some of the spectacle that's shown in this is not going to draw the eye. But the fact that it's we're going to hide Hugh Jackman to the point where until we're going to show him, and you're like, there's Wolverine, and he's
yeah,
singing,
yeah.
right? It's one of those great kind of build the anticipation up,
It,
and then of
it's
course
just
you have the
so
audience reacting to it too.
yeah. The cinematography is gorgeous. I
Mm-hmm.
looked into the director. He was a music video director before this, and
Yes,
you can just tell like he's just such a good visual storyteller. It's beautiful.
I love the costumes in this. They are
Yeah,
so rich. Like once again, this is
and they
not going
look
to be
lived in.
historically accurate, so they're definitely going to play into the more colorful showmanship of it. Where in reality,
Yeah,
this wouldn't have been probably what was worn. Like, it would have been a much more rundown, not as flashy outfit. But
sure. Yeah,
this is the joy of doing it this way, is you can play with that and really hype it up. And the fact that we're now seeing that this is a dream, that
yeah.
this isn't reality for him yet.
Yes, exactly. And that silhouette with the
Mhm.
that silhouette is beautiful.
Yes. And of course, we have a lot of great Broadway actors in this. We have Will Swenson, who's playing P.T. Barnum's dad, who actually was in Les Mis on Broadway,
Oh,
playing
really?
Javert.
Javert. I knew it. I knew.
Yeah,
You know, he just looks like a Javert.
he definitely is a Javert, and he's married to six-time Tony winner Audra McDonald. Um, and he did Hair. He's done a whole bunch of Broadway stuff. So you'll see a lot of Broadway actors who show up in this.
Very cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's got like he just looks like Javert. He just
Yeah,
yeah
more than Russell Crowe.
yeah. He probably sounds better too. Ooh,
Yeah,
sorry,
oh,
that was
so
a
much
bad
better,
day.
so
But
much better, so
this, I
much
love
better.
this. I love their whole. I know it's a bit cliched, but I love their backstory and how they met. I
It's
think
so
it's. I mean,
sweet.
it's sweet. It is a bit of the whole like class divide and very cliche. Like we've
Yeah,
seen this story a million times, but
hmm,
it's cute. It's well done.
yeah. Like it's a great meet cute.
Yeah, and this is a brutal moment when well, it's coming up, but
Yeah,
he smacks the kid, and it's just oh
yes.
gosh,
But once again, it's not historically inaccurate. Like back then, corporal punishment was the norm, right? Like he's gonna
yeah,
hit him, and it's like, yeah, that's what. Yep, there it is, right there.
yeah.
There's the slap, and it's like, kids back then were really abused and mistreated. Like this is before child labor laws. Like this is at the time when you would send kids down into coal mines, and they would tie them to the doors of the coal mines so they could open and close the doors in the dark.
I was gonna say like it's Dickens times, right?
This is
About
Dickensian, yeah, like 1800s, yeah,
okay, yeah,
yeah,
and it definitely does give a very great expectations kind of vibe. This opening
yes.
with two of them, yeah,
Oh, yes, I love Great Expectations. Great Dickens book. Um,
yeah,
yeah, and I will say,
very.
like these two kids have great chemistry with each
They
other.
do, and they're great on screen, and
Yeah,
they're amazing singers.
yes. I don't know if the kid's a Broadway actor. I would assume he's probably got some Broadway, or because he's a great singer. Like
Yeah, I'm
this,
surprised he hasn't done more. Maybe he has, and I just haven't
yeah.
seen the stuff. Love
I mean,
these
the thing with
shots of the
kids this
trees
young is
with the
they grow
fog.
up so fast
Yeah,
that he may appear 2 years later in another movie, but it's like he looks
don't
completely
recognize
different.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love this that when they're walking through the forest and the
Hmm.
fog and the
Yeah.
trees and it just this is why I think this is such an underrated movie because it's such
Hmm.
a great example of visual storytelling and
Yes.
the sets and the way the sets and the locations look
Hmm.
like that shot of the door where the leaves coming through that
Yeah.
like beautiful shots, which is why I think more
Yes,
people need to watch this movie. But, yeah.
agreed. And I mean, once again, like you're right. Like this is something that oftentimes gets missed in when it doing films, when doing a film or even a musical on film is. And we talked about this in Gaslight, which we did for Cup of Hemlock, which is you got to know how to do show not tell, like
Yes,
like
and this
like
whole thing is show not tell. He is
yes,
singing, and we're hearing what he's saying, but he's not singing.
yes,
Here is my object. I'm spinning
yeah,
around the room. They're talking
yeah,
about something else, you know. So
yes.
it's it's beautiful.
Hmm.
And you know what it's doing too, which I really like. It's not trying to be smart
Oh,
or
I
like
love that with the
over the
rolling
top.
fabric rolling down the
Yeah,
stairs. Like, it looks like the circus tent
yeah,
cover.
it's beautiful. Oh, good
Yeah,
analogy. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, once again, great montage, right? Like
Yes.
this is really good use of montage where you're gonna see these actors grow up to become the Hugh Jackman and Michelle Williams, and you're going to see the passing of his dad. Like this is a lot of plot we're moving through, but this song does such a good job of you feel the pain of this character who is
Yeah.
basically a starving child in the streets, and he's going to get thrown down and beat up and left left for dead in the gutter.
And you know what? You could tell this is where I think the
Mhm.
music video directing comes in because
Yeah.
this montage, it's not music video like, but he knows how to tell a story in quick
Yes.
beats and just give us enough information, like that
Hmm.
shot with the hat on the grave,
Hmm.
just enough. We know what happened. We don't need any other explanation.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, you're right. This is where like this is how good uh uh um music video editing is done.
Yeah,
Because when you look at Suicide Squad, the first one, the David Ayer one, that was horribly re-edited by a music video editor, it didn't work
yeah,
because they didn't know the story. But
yeah,
because the director is in the editing room with the editor, and I don't know who the editor is, I have to look it up. But it's one of those things of because he's directed it and knows the story and knows the piece, he knows how to make this piece work for the music video style of montage editing that's being done. And look, what a great bit of editing where it's like the kids walking
yeah.
up to the house and now the top
And
hat
it's
comes
him.
down and it's Hugh Jackman. And it's a
Yeah,
very young looking Hugh Jackman too. Like they made Hugh Jackman look young. Like he looks kind of
yeah.
like
That's
Curly from
definitely
Oklahoma,
CGI.
like that early 2000s Hugh Jackman.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I love how like beaming and happy he is. And it's like, "Oh, buddy. Dad's going to say no."
well, and this is again where we get into the whole like
Mhm.
accuracy of the times. Like
Yeah.
if it was a realistic story, I don't know. I don't believe that she'd be running off with him personally, but
No, and I
that's
mean, historically, his wife, like, this is his first wife. He had two wives. So
okay.
after she dies in real life, he then remarried and stayed with this other woman till they die. But his wife, I don't believe she was, if I remember my history book correctly, that that basically it's all about like she was more of his class. There wasn't this big class divide. But once
Ah,
again, this is like Titanic, right? I mean, historically
yeah,
speaking, Jack and Rose would have never ended up together. Those gates were decided there
exactly.
for a reason, not just to be
Yeah,
a metaphor, but like there were health reasons of why you'd have that.
yeah.
And even Michelle Williams can sing. Like,
I think Michelle Williams is one of the best actresses of her generation.
yes,
She's so underrated, and
her Marilyn portrayal in my weekend with Marilyn is so
yeah,
good.
and Blue Valentine.
Yeah.
I think she's really underrated, and also
Mhm.
the dance scene here is beautiful with the moon behind them,
Oh,
and
I
the
love that.
yeah,
And I love the skirt. Like this is like West Side Story Anita
yes,
with the skirt, right? Like this was Jerome. That's like Jerome Robbins choreography, where it's like they're gonna
great
play with the
reference.
skirt, and the skirt kind of looks a bit like a circus tent. Like they're gonna
Yes,
keep coming back to this look.
that's so. And again, you pointed out a fact I never noticed with the this all the circus references before this. It's yeah,
Yes, I
and
mean this is so good. This
It's so good.
choreography, it works. Like
It's
it's
well directed. Yeah, it does
mhm,
have a lot of cuts and stuff, and I know it's
yeah,
it's cutting around quite a lot. Which, but you know what? It's
yeah,
a musical.
hmm
Um, One thing I really like is that they're not trying to be too intellectual. They're just giving
yeah,
us a simple story, which
hmm
works.
yes,
And then now she's pregnant. It cuts down to her
yeah,
pregnant. So that's yeah. Again, quick information, and then it
hmm
moves on.
yeah. And then I love how we cut to like Hugh Jackman being like Bob Parr in The Incredibles, working in
Yeah,
the finance office, or like Leo Bloom, and the producers working with all the accountants. Like it's
that's me selling
very
insurance.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's just a lot of cubicle work that's gonna restrict the artistic energy of this character.
maybe edit out that TD insurance part. But yeah,
When we get to the audio only version, I will edit it out.
amazing. Thanks. Don't want to get fired.
And this is true. Like P.T. Barnum did unfortunately lose his did kind of have this type of job, and he did lose it. So there is some historical accuracy to this, and
Okay.
he did try running a lottery, like lottery as well. Like P.T. Barnum, for all the very bad historical things he did, I will give him credit. He was a person who never stopped chasing that entrepreneurial energy that he had. Like that was like that is something that he's a true kind of classic American story, right? Like
Yeah.
continually beat down, but then kept coming back up with different plans.
Yeah, and you got to respect that drive.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, a lot of us look at this and think about like, you know, I mean, we've lost jobs and stuff, I'm sure, but just
yes,
big difference back then, with what they had to go
yeah,
through, how to get money, and yeah,
yeah. Especially when this was really back then. Like both parents usually did not work, right? Like Michelle Williams' character is a stay-at-home mom.
yeah. Katie just made
Oh,
a point that it's the first time we see Michelle Williams not looking rich
yes,
in the film. Like she's kind of
yeah,
dirty hair and
yeah.
dirt on her face. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the kids are really good in this movie too. Like
They're
there's
so
very good
cute.
kid actors. Yeah, they're very cute.
Yeah. And then I love this. Like once again, this entrepreneurial inventor energy. Like he is, even though he's had a shit day and lost his job, he comes home and he's not going to let that despair, the uncertainty of the world affect his energy with his kids. He's never going to let that show to his kids. He's going to keep the dream going.
Yeah, and I often talk to Katie about it. How okay, historical accuracy aside,
Yeah.
I think his character in this movie is a
Mm.
good example of what it means to be a man and what it means to
Yes.
provide for your family,
Yes.
and when you slip up or when you lose
Mm-hmm.
sight of what's important, that you
Mm-hmm.
you know you come back and you realize what's
Yeah.
right. Anyways, we'll get to that later, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think he's a
But
very well written character in this movie.
mm-hmm. Yes, I mean, not a historically accurate character. I mean, I'd much rather
Exactly,
rather
not
just
historically
not
accurate.
have him be P.T. Barnum. Have him just be a regular
Yeah.
Joe Smith circus,
Yes.
inspired by the life of P.T. Barnum. I much
Yeah.
rather. I think the film would have gotten much better response from critics and historians had they not labeled him as a P.T. Barnum, instead of just said he is
Yeah.
just some random, like this is just the classic American dream story with this guy who creates a circus. And because I mean we'll get into this more when we get into the circus and his relationship with these um uh, I don't they're not disabled, but people who are on the fringes of society,
Yes.
who do not conform to the societal norms,
Yeah.
right? Like when you look at the historical thing of what happened with P.T. Barnum and his exploitative nature of what he did there, It is not great.
Well,
So
well
unfortunately,
said.
there's
Exactly.
baggage with the real historical character, and we'll get into this
Yes.
more. But like, just this beginning part is so beautiful because it makes you immediately buy into this character in his dream, and you're rooting for him to succeed. And that's
Yeah,
the
you
key with
like
this
him
movie.
so
You've got to
much, and
get the audience to buy in fast.
you like him throughout the whole movie. And well said about like if he was called something else to be different. My theory is
Mm.
that they probably used it because they're like, oh, this is the guy who invented the circus. This is going to
Yeah,
get people to come see. It's
yeah,
an interest. And yeah, I agree with you completely. I'm not saying P.T. Barnum is a good person, but
yeah,
just Hugh Jackman's character.
hmm
He goes on such an interesting journey,
yeah.
and you feel for him.
Oh yeah, you and you only get.
Oh,
There we go. Um, but like, this is why you cast Hugh Jackman, because he is, even in the most horrible role he's done, which is Prisoners, where he's playing a very dark character who you should not be rooting for the things he does in that movie. But because he's Hugh Jackman, and there is a charm in that man's eyes that just makes you buy into him when he's doing the most horrible things.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You can't help but like him.
yeah.
He's I don't know, an American treasure, right? He's like one of those.
He is a gen. I know what it is. He is a genuine person.
Yeah,
Like when
yeah,
you talk to him and realize the fact that him and his wife, like the fact that he like his wife was, I think she was his casting agent or his agent, but like
yeah,
a lot of people have criticized him because like they go like, your wife, she's older than you, like she's not this like supermodel Megan Fox type that you would expect a man with who
yeah,
plays Wolverine to be with. But it's like, no, I love my partner. We have kids. I think they foster kids too. Like he's a
yeah,
very genuine, loving person. In every project he takes on, he brings 110% of himself to
yeah.
that role.
Absolutely. And even I know we both have
Yeah,
our issues with the Les Mis movie, but
yeah,
he his performance, in my
mm-hmm.
opinion, should have won the Oscar that year. Like he is
Yes, because he got beat
fantastic.
by, I think it was
He got
Lincoln.
beat by Daniel Day Lewis, but
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, if they come out any other year than Daniel Day Lewis's
I
year,
know,
it
yeah,
would have
yeah,
won. Because I mean, I
yeah.
can't fault
Sorry.
Daniel Day Lewis in that movie because I love Lincoln. That is such an underrated Spielberg film.
Yeah, it's one I
Yeah,
haven't watched in a while, which I want to go
yeah,
back to because I saw it when I was younger, and I
yeah,
don't think I appreciated it at the time, and I want to
yeah,
rewatch it.
yeah. And then here we go. I mean, just Mr. Salesman here. He's got the
Yeah,
money. He's making it. He's playing it out like he is trying his hardest, and he's even got the kids involved too.
yeah,
Like he's trying, and of course all the papers are like,
being thrown around.
is that Paul Giamatti playing the bearded guy?
Sorry.
Was that Paul Giamatti playing the bearded guy, the one that
No,
it
I
looked
don't
like
think so.
him,
It did look like him, yeah.
or maybe it was Danny Burstein. I don't know, who from Broadway, but he looks like Paul Giamatti. I was like,
Yeah.
do they get Paul Giamatti do a cameo in this? Because he's
Yeah, yeah.
great in whatever he does.
He is.
Mhm.
I and it's very well written. I'm
Yeah.
reading a lot of books on screenwriting
Mhm.
and just all the things he goes through. It's
Yeah.
very well written.
It's this is a tight script.
It is.
Like this story, the way they tell it is so tight. Where the
Yeah.
pace is good, every scene is, excuse me, driving forward, like the
Yes.
overall story. It is doing its job, and it repeatedly makes you root for him because it shows him
Yes.
trying and failing and trying and failing, and he loses his way a bit when he gets some success. Then he ultimately is going to win the day. Like it's one of those, and there's a reason why this film is spawning a sequel that they're working on now. Apparently,
Oh yeah, I heard they're working on a
yeah,
sequel.
it's like,
Yeah.
of course you'd want a sequel to this movie. It made a lot of money. It's a feel good movie. Like,
And yeah, it constantly flows and
and then
moves.
of course we
And
get
you're
some good
right.
symbolism here with the apple too, right? The fruit of
Yeah.
knowledge as he's looking at the information. It's like some subtle thinking there.
Yeah, and it wasn't that the Katie just said that's the apple that got given to him by the old woman, like that maybe
Yes,
a reference to that. Yeah.
yes.
Oh, that's so sad when the mom's like, I don't have a son.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. So now we get into that.
Yeah,
Where
it's
yeah, this is where it gets gray, right?
it does get gray. It's a great
Like
way to describe it.
yeah, because Hugh Jackman in his portrayal of P.T. Barnum is portrayed as a very loving, supportive person. And yet, when we look at the real P.T. Barnum and what he did to these people, not the case. Like the fact that he had an elderly black woman who he proclaimed to be the oldest woman in the world, and then after she died, he sold money to her autopsy to prove that she was the oldest person. And then when they're like, no, she actually was like 80. It's like, oh, never mind, she's off living somewhere in the countryside with money. It's like, uh,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, like definitely not a good person in that sense. But in this movie, like this was really a piece about, it's about they really wanted it to be a piece about making the unseen people, the people who don't fit societal norms, deserve their moment in the sun. And that's why you're gonna have this great song later on of "This Is Me," right? Like that's that whole song, right? It's owning yourself and not letting society's norms beat you down, right? So I mean, it's a great message. It's just
Yeah,
unfortunate they chose a
exactly. It's a
character to
great
live.
message,
Yeah,
but the background of it historically
yeah,
iffy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like that's the issue is they chose someone who historically, like here we go. So we're going to meet Kayla Asado, who is a great Broadway actress. She was Madame Thenardier on Broadway.
Oh, I
Uh,
didn't know that. Interesting.
she actually right before the Oscars, where she performed the song, had a stroke. Um, like she is a phenomenal actress.
Well, I've seen the video of her and Hugh Jackman singing in
Yeah,
that video
at
you
the
just
producers, yeah,
yeah,
producers
incredible.
showing, yeah, where she said, "I didn't think I'd ever get cast in the movie because of my body type." And it's
Yeah.
like that's the tragedy is that this woman who is a phenomenal performer and singer on Broadway wouldn't, you know, probably get cast, but because Hugh Jackman's her champion, literally, and champion for her to play this part, got her the role. It's like one of those things of society still has not come as far as we'd like it to come, you know?
Well, yeah, and that's that's the thing, right? You could look at this movie and go like, oh, like the character, the
Yeah,
movie's
yeah,
champion, champion, championing people
yeah,
from all walks of life,
yeah,
and but again, it's that gray area because you think about the backstory with what the film is actually about.
yeah.
You're right. The great way to say it is it's
Mm-hmm.
gray. It's a gray
It's
area.
it's
I don't
so
think there's a right
gray
and
because
wrong
I mean, on
answer.
one hand, you're like, great, he's giving these people a platform, but really, what he's doing is he's selling their. I'm going to use the word exoticness
Yeah,
in
he's exposing
quotation
them and using
marks to. I mean, there's a reason why they called it a freak show back in the day was because these people were outside the norm and people loved to come and see people who were different and got
yeah,
to point and laugh at them. I mean, there are many historical accounts of them being prodded with sticks and laughed at and things were thrown at them. Like this was one of these things where they were not like this was not a happy circus life, like this was
yeah.
where
You
everybody
never really
else
see
rejected them, so they all ended up on the circus circuit
and
where
you never see them like you see them a little bit living in the quarters and stuff like that,
yeah,
but we never really see their living conditions. They probably had
no,
terrible living conditions, like
terrible.
yeah.
They weren't paid well either. Like
No, no, and yeah, and the film glosses over that,
yeah,
and rightfully so.
there's character. Yeah,
However,
what's his name?
there's a lot to think about with the background of it.
Mhm. And I mean, so musically, this is a really interesting film where you have a very modern sounding score
Yeah.
with this kind of older environment. And the reason they
Yeah.
did this was because they wanted it to show P.T. Barnum was ahead of his time.
Okay.
And
Okay. Yeah.
I like this. This works better than like Spring Awakening where it's all rock and roll music
Yeah.
because it's, like it's going to be edgy, like it's going to break societal norms. It's like no, like the joy of like this works because it all fits together as it shows like people are like Hugh Jackman is above or is ahead of everybody else. This isn't going to be a Rodgers and
Yes.
Hammerstein score because of that.
Yeah. I don't think I would have liked it if it didn't have modern music. I think the
Yeah.
modern music works for it.
And of course, look, now they come out into the spotlight and everybody's shocked and scared. No, they're not. They're gonna look at you like, unfortunately, like as much as humanity is a beautiful thing, has many beautiful qualities. There is also a very large part of society that like loves to watch the failure, loves to watch the oddity of the world,
Yeah.
and and point it and point at it and make it like
They're gonna make fun of these people and take
yeah,
out their insecurity on them. Like that's how it works, right?
yes, yes. I mean, there's a great
Well, they
line
don't make fun of
by.
them in the movie, but they would in real life.
I mean, Howard Ashman wrote a beautiful lyric when he wrote Beauty and the Beast, when it's the mob song and they're marching off to go kill the beast, and their line is, "We don't like what we don't understand. In fact, it scares us, and this monster is mysterious at least."
Yeah.
And that encapsulates humanity: is if there's something we don't understand, we will destroy it versus trying to understand it. And that's
Exactly.
what.
Exactly. Fear is a
Yeah.
driving factor always.
And I
Also,
mean, the
this is
other
a great number.
this is such a fun number, right? Like once again, as an audience member, you're immediately bought into them, and you're rooting for these performers like Kiala Saddle's bearded woman, who doesn't actually get a name. First of all, she's always called the bearded woman. That's a
Yeah, that's
problem.
weird.
Like she
Yeah.
should have been at least given a name like Fiona. I don't know. Give her some name so she's not just
Nona's
referred to
good.
as
Yeah.
bearded woman. Like um, but it's
Oh,
one of
here's the
these
critic,
things. Yeah, the critic.
which I really like this plot. I love the subplot of the critic.
Yeah.
I think it adds something to the film, which is really
Yes.
nice. It gives him a challenger. It gives him
Yeah.
um, a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, he's just like inside all of you acting like it's all gonna be
Yeah.
fine. It's like, oh,
And of course, once again, you have society outside the door, repeatedly like coming after him. Who is that bearded actor who's with Hugh Jackman? He looks like Paul Giamatti. I gotta look this up now. But once again, this montage is
Eric Anderson.
Eric Anderson.
Eric Anderson.
Okay.
Oh, there's Zendaya.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a whole other plot problem. Is you're gonna get Zac Efron into this movie, right? And he's gonna have this love story with arguably one of the most beautiful men in the world, who is Zendaya,
Yeah.
right? And it's like it's the same problem with Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame, where you have somebody like Quasimodo who is different in the world. And instead of having like Zac Efron fall in love with like the bearded lady, he's gonna of course fall in love with the trapeze artist who, yes, she is facing racial discrimination, but it's like on a scale of bearded woman to Zendaya,
Yeah. Yeah.
there is a very clear line here that they're still promoting that it's okay if you fall in love with somebody different, as long as they look like Zendaya and not like
Yeah. Yeah.
Kay Alisado. And it's like that's another problem with this movie that I've always had a problem with. That plot line is I love Zac Efron and Zendaya together, but it's
Yeah. I was gonna say I love their
Just
storyline. I
didn't get
think it's
this one by
great.
his parents.
And he gets he has conflict with his parents,
yeah,
but I don't, they sell it well. I think they have
they
great
do.
chemistry in
They
it.
sell it. Hey, Zac
But I
Efron and
agree.
Zendaya have some of the best chemistry I've ever seen them have beside her and Tom Holland together. Like,
Maybe
and
the
of course,
bearded lady will get a love interest in the sequel.
there we go. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Love the suits. Love the costumes.
I would love a suit like P.T. Barnum has.
Me
Unfortunately,
too.
being
I'm
a
gonna wear
short
that for my
person,
wedding.
long coats do not work well. They make you look shorter. I've learned.
Well, it's got a very like it's a bit more elegant, but it's got a Peaky
Yeah.
Blinders kind of quality to it, which I love.
Yes. I love Peaky Blinders. Helen
No,
McCrory was so good on that show before she passed away.
that that death broke me. That was
Hmm.
really unfortunate. Yeah.
Yes. And I love the critics calling him out, where it's like the critics were seen as the villain or the antagonist of P.T. Barnum, but really he's speaking some honest truths here.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
it's kind of like, oh, there's another really good musical I just was talking about a little while ago, where it's oh, what is it? Oh, it's Music Man. Speaking of Hugh
Okay.
Jackman, but in Music Man there is a character who's an anvil salesman, Charlie Sloane, the anvil salesman, and he is throughout the whole piece trying to get Harold Hill caught because every time Harold Hill goes to town and tricks the people into, buying these band instruments, then he leaves town and leaves them all angry. The next salesman who comes in gets tarred and feathered, and goes right out of town on the rails. And he's repeatedly going to these people, going, "This guy is a huckster. He's taking your money and is going to run away. Like this guy's not a good person." And yet, always when you see the show, Charlie is played as the villain of the piece. You
Yeah.
know, and it's the same thing here. Where this critic is seen as, "Oh, you're destroying his dreams. You're being cruel." But you know,
Telling the truth.
he's telling the truth. Like this guy is not to mean to P.T. Barnum here, but he's a fraud. He's a huckster who's making money off the backs of these poor um, people who have nowhere else to turn, so they turn to the show, right?
Fun fact: I played Harold Hill back in the day when I was
Oh,
younger.
really?
My first musicals. Yeah. Yeah, good times. Good times.
Harold
He
Hill's a
is a
really
swindler.
fascinating character.
He's a good con man for sure.
He is a great con man, and I mean, not to go off on a tangent, but side tangent here. But I have a composer friend from LA, and he's talked about the music when he goes, if Harold Hill wasn't so charismatic, people would see him for what he is, and he goes, he's kind of like, a certain former president who is very good at the smoke and mirrors, saying what needs to be said to get the people rallied up for a cause, right?
Well, I
And
think it's the same that could be said for multiple anyone in politics or
anybody
any
in
like
politics, yeah,
even actors who
yes,
have sexually harassed people.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
easy to look past these things for society. Apparently,
yeah,
when they're really good looking and
yeah.
pretty, everyone looks the other way.
Hmm.
Harold Hill's a
He's a
great
con
example of
man.
that. He is a
He's a
con
con
man,
man. Yeah.
but he's handsome and he's charming, so
Yes.
that's why people go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting a bit into like the higher high life kind of.
Yep. Exactly. And once again, these girls want to join, but once again, we're going to get into social class where they're not going to be accepted because of their background, right?
Yeah.
From a dance perspective, they chose the right style of skirts
And
for
once
their
again, it's
hair.
that continual way the story sets it up where there is a success and then they get knocked back. And the audience is going to repeatedly fight for these characters, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. Because when you see them wanting
Mm-hmm.
something and they're going through ups and downs, that's when you care, right? And that's screenwriting
Mm-hmm.
101
And
for
the
sure.
daughters pointed out a really good fact, which is because he's like, "You're going to be the next prima ballerina," and she goes, "No, that takes years of training. You can't fake it like your circus."
Yeah.
And that's the truth, right? Like that, and that's the same thing with Harold Hill in The Music Man, right? Like learning how to play the cornet and the trombone take years of training to do it well. Do it using the think method,
Yeah.
to play the minuet in G is not the real way the world works. And it's the same thing here with where his daughter pointed him out, where it's like, like, sorry, dad, like, you can say whatever you want to me, but the truth is, if I'm actually going to do this, I'd actually have to work at it, not just play
Yeah.
pretend.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Katie made a pointed out the tutus the girls were wearing were historically accurate for the time. Is that correct?
The romantic era of
The
ballet.
romantic
Ooh,
era ballet.
The
Yeah.
skirts
very
that were,
cool.
rather than tutus that stand up, they're skirts that are set higher on the waist and they flow down with crinoline.
Almost like a circus tent.
That's true
Yeah.
too.
Very true. I
This is a
love
really
this.
cool number. This rhythmic. I mean, if you go watch the outtakes of these two doing it, it's really funny. Because
Oh,
a
Oh,
lot
I
of
want
times
to
they
watch
miss the glass, or it's like all timed, right? Like it's really cool choreography here.
it's a beautiful set too. I was just to going back a bit, that scene with him and Michelle Williams,
Yeah.
I loved that wide shot in the
Yes.
bedroom where you can see the distance between them growing,
Yeah.
which is really
Yeah.
nice.
Great symbolism once again. A lot of people
Yeah.
miss, like General Ryan's is it's all subconscious, but as a good film director and a good filmmaker, you have to be thinking about. I mean, the shot tells the story, right? Like it's a choice of like the fact that a lot of these shots here are shown in twos, right? Because Hugh Jackman and Zac Efron are now working together, right? Like they are
Yes,
collaborating, so they're going to be shown on the same in the same frame, so they're always going to be together,
absolutely.
right? Like versus like always having a close up on Hugh Jackman and never showing Zac Efron. Like there's a reason why they're filming it this way. And that's something like people audiences never actively think, nor should they be actively thinking about it.
No, yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that can ruin movies for you when you're like me, where you overthink every little detail about
Me
them.
too.
But
My dad's like, Max, stop showing me all this. Like, just let me
yeah,
watch the
yeah,
piece.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's really interesting about this scene? Like they're getting extremely wasted, and they can
Yes.
still sing perfectly and dance perfectly.
It's the
Maybe they
magic
drank
of.
enough really quick. The alcohol didn't hit
Yeah.
them yet.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're actually watching Zac Efron's reality show on Netflix right now, where he
He has a
travels the
reality
world.
show.
Well, I want to call it a reality show. It's more of like a
It's like
travel
a docu.
Ooh,
docu-series,
I didn't know
and he's
this.
really good. It's cool. Like you know what, he did say that he left Hollywood because he was too much for him, and he
Yep.
kind of went to travel the world and stuff. And
He's
I
been living in Australia
living
since
in
the
Australia
pandemic.
since the
Didn't
pandemic,
something
and
happen with his jaw too recently, where he came out and said like I
he had an
shattered my
injury.
jaw,
Yeah,
almost died, and like that's why my face looked so different there for a while.
yeah. But I saw the show and it looked a little different, but it didn't look
Mm,
with what everyone's kind of saying. It
yeah.
didn't
Some of
look.
the pictures are bad, but I think they're just bad pictures.
Yeah, they could be bad pictures. Someone could have even edited them to make them
Yeah.
look worse. But despite all the fame and stuff, he seems like he's kind of got a down to earth vibe
He's
lately
very
as
down to
well.
earth.
Yeah, which I
Like,
That's
and
literally
he.
the name
respect.
of the show is Down to
And
Earth
the
with
show's
Zac
name
Efron.
is Down to Earth. Yeah,
See,
yeah,
it all fits.
yeah,
It all
exactly.
fits. But he is someone
Yeah.
who's fascinating when you look at his filmography because he's done High School Musical, he's done Hairspray, he's done this. Then he also did that Ted Bundy movie there a little
Yeah,
while
which
ago on
apparently he was
Netflix, which he
really
was
good
really
in.
good in.
Yeah.
Like and he's also done Baywatch. He did oh, what's that one with Seth
Neighbors.
Rogen where it's the all the
Neighbors.
neighbors? Like he's got a really cool filmography where he does a lot. He's never stuck to the pretty boy image, like he's always
Yeah, they
tried doing new
obviously use
things.
his looks
Yeah,
for the roles, but
yeah, yeah,
that's one of his strengths. He's clearly a good looking dude, but like
yeah,
he can act and he can sing and he can
yes,
perform and he seems like a genuinely good person. So,
yes,
I mean, I don't know him, but
I don't know if
yeah.
it's true. Apparently, Jeremy Jordan was supposed to be in this role instead of
He
him, but then they
was.
changed it to Zac Efron.
Yes,
Katie's on. Is it okay if Katie chimes in?
of course,
Okay. So
of
Jeremy
course.
Jordan.
I love Jeremy Jordan from
I love
Newsies.
So
Jeremy
he was
Jordan
supposed to
too.
be Zac Efron, right?
Apparently, he was supposed
Yeah.
to be this role, but Jeremy Jordan also doesn't dance.
Hmm.
Oh,
Well, Jeremy
okay.
Jordan doesn't dance well. He's always said like I'm a mover. Like he did Newsies on Broadway.
But every time there's a dance scene, he does a one-handed cartwheel and
Yeah,
leaves.
he has his
That's
one
so
trick.
funny.
That's his shtick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what he's known for. Well,
I
okay.
mean, there's
Here's
a
a
lot of
perfect
great actors who
example.
are great movers but not dancers, and that's okay. Like,
Yeah.
like, like as long as the world's written that way, that's the most important thing. But yeah, Zac Efron was not the original singer for this. When they were doing all the out of town tryouts and sing throughs of this piece, they had Jeremy Jordan doing
Mm.
it. And this is a really cool shot with Zendaya
Oh, it's one of the
It's
best
like
shots in the
flying
whole
up to
movie.
camera. Oh, I love it.
Is the you feel the love at first sight though?
Yes, immediately you're bought into it.
Yeah. It's not cheesy, it's not corny, it's just really well done.
Yeah,
And just a bit before, when they're walking around the coming into the tent and things, this is where it gets a bit iffy, where I'm like, well, these two white dudes who have money are
yeah,
showing up in their kingdom with all
yeah,
the commoners, right? It just,
yeah,
there's something that doesn't feel right about it. And
yes,
that's what we were talking about. They're
yeah,
exploiting people.
yeah. They really are. I mean, like, once again, and the fact that we're going to do this whole racial discrimination storyline with two of the most beautiful people that you can
Yeah.
find. And I
Yeah.
mean, not to mean to Zendaya here, but her brother in the show or in this film is darker than she is, right? So once again,
Yeah.
it's Zendaya is much more light skinned. You know, like there's a lot of social political things. I think nowadays there would be a problem.
I didn't clue in that it was her brother. I thought that was maybe a friend or someone who
No,
liked
no,
her.
her
I've
brother
But
and
always understood it
sister.
was her brother.
see, I'm
Her
always
brother,
learning new
her brother
things
and
every time I
sister.
watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the little girl with the beard on, kind of making
Yes.
fun of them. Like,
Yeah. Right? Like this is that thing of I mean, another thing they leave out of this whole museum part of the story is he had animals there. So he actually had a tank with a whale in it. And it is true the building did burn down and the whale boiled alive in during the fire.
Oh my god.
jeez.
So they leave that part of the story too, where it's like,
Yeah,
not the best here, people.
Free Willy. Yeah, jeez.
Yeah.
I wonder what the sequel will be about. I'm wondering what they're going to do with that.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't see it being a continuing story, but it's
yeah,
like, where would you go?
I mean, you can make it about Zac Efron, but
yeah,
Because
I,
to me, is like Hugh Jackman kind of exited the story like at the very
yeah.
end.
yeah,
Now this is true. They did go to Buckingham Palace, and P.T. Barnum did bring some of his um, performers, let's say, with him.
good word, good word.
Yeah, but like this did happen. I mean, not everybody came. I know for sure the little person came with him because
Right.
they traveled together all the time. Like that was his kind of go to
So they had a
sidekick.
bond.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was historically accurate.
Yes, Queen Victoria.
Your Majesty, may I present Mr. Pope?
The owner is not Mr. Bob.
I mean, who knows? Maybe when they do the prequel to The Crown that they're working on, maybe we'll get a flashback to when P.T. Barnum came to
Yeah,
Buckingham Palace. Because they are setting up the prequel. I mean, have you watched the latest season of The Crown yet?
I'm embarrassed to say I have not watched The Crown at all.
I'm
I
shocked.
know. I've heard great things about it. It's just one of those shows I haven't got around to, unfortunately. But it's definitely on my list.
Yes. Well, in this latest
Heard
season, they
it's
do make
very
more
well made.
flashback references to like King George V, World War One era of time.
Yeah.
So that which is the time period they want to do. They want to do it right after the death of Queen Victoria, up to when Queen Elizabeth takes the throne. And here we
Hmm.
go. So this is another historical moment here, which is this singer, this Jenny Lind. So they definitely did this woman a disservice when in this movie because in reality she was a very big charitable person. She had I think she had schools or something for orphan children. She was not an alto, she was a soprano. Like she
Hmm.
was a very different person that this movie then, you know, kind of doctors to fit into the story.
I never thought of her as a bad person in the movie, though. If that makes
No,
sense.
no, 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 no. She's never a villain in this movie. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But she
She's
definitely is
just
a foil to
yes,
Michelle Williams's character. That's for sure.
absolutely. Obviously,
Mhm.
we're going to root for Michelle Williams'
Yes.
character over her for sure.
Yeah.
I think Rebecca Ferguson is an incredible actress.
I love her. She's so
Yeah,
good. Like
Lady
Mission
Jessica and Dune.
Impossible, everything, Dune, like just so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, yeah, so historical and accuracy wise, like this is where I go. This is where I have a problem because I'm all for, like if like the same thing that's going on with The Crown right now is we're talking about historical inaccuracy, and I go, well, hold on. There, Peter Morgan, when he writes this, is consolidating historical moments into one thing because it makes better sense for the story, and he's
Sure.
taking conversations that happen between the Queen and the Prime Minister that there are no records of because the audiences are private, so we don't know what they talk about in those meetings. So he can say whatever he wants to say. And that's
Sure.
fine, but he's still going to say, like, hey, Diana showed up in this black revenge dress for this party. She didn't show up in a pink dress. Like, he still stays within the same thing with Braveheart. Braveheart takes a lot of historical inaccuracies. But for the most part, they still stick to the overall historical elements. Like the battle of, what's the big one? It was on a bridge.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name
anyway,
either.
so in the movie of Braveheart, that battle took place on a bridge. In the movie, it does not take place on a bridge. It takes place in an open field. There's another battle that takes place in real life that took place on an open field. But anyway, so the point being is the outcome of the battle was the same. Braveheart, Wallace still won the day. The British lost and the English lost.
Yeah.
Right? So it's one of those things where they still kept the major plot points the same. Wallace was still betrayed by the higher lords and was given over to the English, who then gutted him, his entrails, and burned him and executed him. Like, he didn't magically survive at the end. And that's where I'm like, okay, you're still hitting all the major plot points of the story. And for the most part, you're adjusting things here and there. But
liberties taken. Yeah.
You're taking some liberties, but you're still hitting the major plot points and aren't falsifying history, And it's like, here, you're now making things up that never happened. Like, there was never a love affair where his wife is going to leave him. There was never she wasn't she was a soprano, not an alto. There were certain definitely historical things that they completely fabricate, and then people take that as historical fact, and then assume this about this woman who, for the most part, was not what she appears in this film, right? And because
for sure.
There's not another biopic about this woman. There's a few books about her, but she's not like a major historical figure like Marilyn Monroe, where we have copious notes on her, right? There's very little written about her, or there's not enough other alternative media showing her in a different light. So this may be the only time somebody ever sees her, this real life woman, on film. And now you're assuming she was this adulterous woman who did this, and this. It's like, nope, that's not accurate. Like, this is where I have problems with films, like historical films, where they just totally fabricate a major element of somebody's life, and then people take it as fact. It's like, there is a very clear line between, things like that. So it's like, this is where, like, I have issues.
I agree. I think. Yeah, I agree. However, this plot line they wrote, even though it might not be accurate, it is really good. Like, it adds a lot of dynamics.
It's a great plot line. But then I go, why did it have to be Jenny Lind? Just name her Veronica Lodge, Betty Buckley, whoever. Name her somebody else.
Yeah, and why did it have to be PT?
Right, exactly. It's one of those things of, if you're going to stray so far from the source, why do you have the name? It's like, at some point, you just kind of got to, stray away and just say, inspired by, and not use the names of the people. Like, just... And I love this song. I mean...
I love when Zac Efron and Zendaya almost touch hands.
Right? It's such an old Hollywood cliche, but it still works.
Yeah, because it's also their story. It's not just about Hugh Jackman's. It's also reflecting what they're going through, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Also, she looks great in white.
Oh, and of course, when she's singing about the hands never being enough, they're holding hands, right? Like, the song is emulating.
So much is going on here with the plot, with
Yes.
multiple characters within one song, and you're
Yeah.
seeing different things going on, which
Yeah.
again, I feel like not a lot of Hollywood films are smart enough to do stuff like this. Like, to me, that's I see that more in like something like Days of Heaven with Terrence Malick, when all the
Yeah.
information's going on for different characters, versus something like this, which is, you know, an American film, and they do it really, really well.
Yeah.
This director has seen some good cinema. That's all I will
Very
say
good.
that.
So we should acknowledge that this is Lauren Alfred or Alred,
Alwitz?
who is performing this song, who is dubbing Rebecca Ferguson here. And this was
Which
Rebecca
I did not
Ferguson's
know
choice
about.
to be dubbed. She said, I can't sing this like this artist is singing it. And if this woman's supposed to be one of the great singers of this period, I need to sound that way. And my vocals are not going to do that for you. So,
Funny, 'cause I realized that,
so the
but I
fact
never
that
also she's saying this.
yeah, so the fact that they dubbed her is great. Because once again, I'd rather have someone like Rebecca Ferguson come out and say, I can't sing this the way it should be sounded.
Yeah.
So find somebody
Fair
who
enough.
is, and I will act it out. I mean, that's an old
Yeah.
Hollywood trick, right? I mean, Christopher Plummer does not sing in Sound of Music, right? Like that's
Yeah.
not his. That's not him singing. There are
Well,
that's
it's
not
like Lena and Singing in
Yeah, I
the
was gonna say
Rain.
Singing in the Rain.
Singing in the Rain. Yeah, there's our Audrey
Yeah.
Hepburn in My Fair Lady is Marnie Nixon, who also dubbed Natalie Wood and Deborah Carr. Like,
See, I didn't know all this stuff. See,
Yeah.
I'm this is, and again, I didn't even know Rebecca Ferguson was dubbed. So,
Mhm.
and I should have, but
Yeah.
they should have
But
done more
that's-
press.
but like that's the thing with dubbing is that, and this is where the issue came up, is a lot of these artists who were dubbed never got the proper credit for the dubbing.
Yeah.
Like nobody knew Marnie Nixon dubbed 3 different women of Hollywood: Natalie Wood, Audrey Hepburn, and Deborah Carr. They all just assumed it was those 3 actresses singing. It would Marnie Nixon wasn't until much later in life did she get the credit of, oh, you dubbed these 3 women and sang it perfectly. So that's the thing of, and even like even if you look at Disney, right? Like Lea Salonga dubs both Jasmine and Mulan, vocally speaking, for in those movies, but nobody knows that, right? Like,
Well, Katie just actually told me that tonight when you mentioned Leia.
Mhm.
She was like, "Oh, she dubbed them." I'm like, what?
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know.
she does the singing voices, and Disney did that a lot back in the day. And that, I mean, once again, dubbing is fine. I'd actually prefer it come back, because there are a number of performers, Pierce Brosnan, Russell Crowe, who cannot sing well. I mean,
Yeah, or
Mamma
Les Mis, perfect example.
right? And it's one of those things of, if you want the big Hollywood name, great. But it used to be in Hollywood that you'd have to be someone like a Julie Andrews who could sing it well in order to warrant you being the vocalist featured in the film. It's just, I'd much rather have that. It's just, once again, just then give the person their due. Like, if you're going to have, for example, you and I were talking about before we went on air about how in Les Mis there's the 10th anniversary concert, right? Philip Quast plays Javert in that. Now imagine Russell Crowe's performance with the voice of Philip Quast.
Exactly.
That pairing would have worked really well, because vocally Philip Quast can do it, and Russell Crowe's acting choices weren't bad in that movie. You felt the conflict in that performance. It was just his voice did not do well when you're singing for 8 hours a day on a set, right? It's the same thing here, where it's like Rebecca Ferguson knew, I can't sing this role the way it needs to sound. So let's use the demo track and use this artist, and there we go.
But she should have gotten more credit for sure.
She should have gotten more credit. Like, and,
Also,
I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Finish your thought.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I mean, credit to Rebecca Ferguson. She did credit this artist, this Lauren Alred, with the vocal. She was very clear in interviews of, I did not sing this song. Do not assume it was me. It was not me. It was this other artist. It's just me, and never really. Then went to the vocal artist and said, "Hey, let's get you on Jimmy Fallon so you can sit down and talk and actually get your face shown." Because when she shows up on Britain's Got Talent or The Voice, whatever she was on, and says, "Hey, I'm actually the singer of this song," and everybody's like, "What?" It's It's like, well, there's your problem. Nobody ever took the time to find you and give you the proper visual credit of the voice. I mean, there's a great story with Anastasia, the animated movie,
Right.
where where um where Liz Calloway does the singing for Anastasia, and Meg Ryan did the vocal part. And then you have and then at the premiere they finally got to meet each other. And
Hmm.
Meg Ryan's went, oh, she's like, oh, I told everybody I did my singing, like, it, and didn't give Liz Calloway the credit for it.
Oh, that's awful. Awful.
Yeah, and here we go. So we just missed a really important moment, which is Hugh
Yeah, he
Jackman
kicked
just
them out,
blocked.
let them in.
Yeah. He wouldn't let them into the party. So
Which I think is a interesting choice and honest choice for the filmmakers to make.
I love it because once again, it's showing the turn, right? Like it's showing what fame and fortune can do to someone.
Yep. And also, this is a fantastic song.
Oh, so good.
She is incredible.
She should have got an Oscar nomination for this performance.
I think so too.
Maybe I don't think she would have won, but she's bringing her whole heart to this performance.
Come on, if Julie Andrews got, or not Julie Andrews, my gosh, Angela Lansbury got nominated for Gaslight. Come on, you know what I mean? She should have got nominated.
True. Yeah. And then of course, this is just like such an anthem. Like this song should have won for best song at the Oscars. I think it lost.
I would say any of them should have won. They were all like the score is fantastic.
I think it lost to Coco, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, that makes sense. Coco's really good.
Which is a really good song. But I'm like, this song transcended the film. And it's become such a big anthem to people. Like, it's still being done today and still brings down the house.
Yeah. Which is why I think they need to translate this to stage.
Yes.
ASAP.
Yeah. And of course, like, I love how the camera's choosing to, instead of featuring the group so much on camera, it's from their POV, so the camera's showing what they're seeing. So you're feeling the eyes of these people, like,
and it's keeping them all together in one shot for the most part, which is quite nice.
Yeah. And then of course you got the mob outside with their torches, right? Like, just
and again, that's where the PG kind of G rating comes in. It's like, this is very accurate. There would have probably been some violence going on here. You know, they wouldn't have been able to sing their anthem, unfortunately. That's a nice cut too. I like that cut.
Yes.
Also, just to go back, I love that moment when Rebecca Ferguson's character is singing, and not to go back to further, but when everything goes silent and they just cut the sound completely when the audience is clapping.
Yes.
Wow. Like, great choice of just not using sound.
Mm-hmm. Also, I will say there was just a great shot of Zendaya where they hit the line of "This is me," and she gives like Zac Efron the death glare. It's like, damn, that, like, she's got eyes on her. Where it's like when she wants to turn up the intensity, it's there, and you felt it. Like, and like Kale Sato is just killing this song.
I'm really excited to see her in Dune Part 2 because I think she's going to get into a much deeper role, and I really think she's got a lot.
They did not do enough with Zendaya in Dune Part 1. I was like, I want more Zendaya. The trailers made it seem like she was going to be in way more of this. I love that slow-mo. That really cool pan shot, and it's the slow-mo jump.
Beautiful lighting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is such a good anthem. Like, you just feel it in your heart, right? Like, everybody in the world has felt this feeling of, like, screw the world. I'm owning myself in this moment. Like, that is such a universal song.
And the film, I think the key they really hit with this film is it is just so universal, and any audience could really connect to it.
And it's really great that you're now seeing a darker side of P.T. Barnum here, where he's clearly now got him fame and money.
Great shot, by the way, the silhouette.
Mm-hmm. Yes. and now his focus is now on this Jenny Lind performer who looks societally acceptable. Like he no longer like you can see the story turn of Peter Rodham feels he no longer needs this community that embraced him.
Yeah. And Zac Efron's calling him out for it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How about you show him the smile? Such a disturbing, like horrible line to give to someone. Where it's like, and I'm sure Zac Efron's heard that because he's always been seen as the pretty boy, right? One of the things of just smile and the audience is gonna love you. And he's like, no, I can do more. Like, give me more and I'll do more.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Love that wide shot.
I love Zendaya's costumes in this.
I think the costumes just in the entire film are so iconic. Like they just stay in your head.
Mm-hmm. I mean, once again, the chemistry between Zendaya and Zac Efron is so good.
Yeah, her green dress here. It's really
Such a good, and once again, it's so different, right? Like it's a lot. You see a lot of the society women are like in the pinks, in the whites,
yeah, the
and then
whites.
you're gonna put Zendaya in this very rich green color that just is gonna jar. It's gonna be off
With that exotic necklace on too.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
Unraveling with the help, right? Like,
Oof.
yeah. Like, once again, like they're getting in, like they do this story, but I'm like, there's almost too much for this film to take on. Where it's like, this could be a whole movie on its own, right? Of just the Zendaya and Zac Efron story, but it's like a B plot story. It's like, if you're gonna go for that story, and there is, and I mean, once again, P.T. Barnum had a very complex relationship with people of color. That's a very kind of complex thing there, as we talked about, where he had this very old woman that was supposed to be the nanny of George Washington, and then she died, and he autopsied her and sold tickets to her autopsy, like horrible, horrible things. So the fact that like it's a really complex thing, and then like they kind of just make it like a B plot. It's like, oh, as much as I love this storyline and their chemistry is so good, when you look when you watch it a few times, you're like, I feel like we could have gone deeper with the storyline had there been more time given to them. But because this film is so tight in its storytelling, there is no time to give more time to them.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful moment.
Mm-hmm.
I know I would have wanted more, but I think enough. Like it's tight
enough
enough.
was given to them that like, yeah, you get it. Yeah. This is such a great song. Rewrite the Stars. I love his falsetto. Like, oh, just so good. I mean, this is tough choreography here they're going to about to do with this rope trick routine. I mean, simple touch is so great, where it just, you feel the sensual energy of this piece without having to be like that provocative. And then, of course, she's up in the air. So good.
Yeah, this whole scene.
Yeah. Like they make it so sensual without it being like essentially like over sexualizing of either one of these very good looking people. Like it's sensual, but in a very PG way.
Yeah. It's very romantic.
Mm-hmm.
It's very raw. It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
The lighting is incredible. The fact that Zendaya wanted to do her own stunts for this is amazing.
It's very hard.
And it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
As a dancer, I tried to learn how to do the silks and the ring and stuff that she does, and it is very difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think it is in my opinion, from now on, maybe second best, but I think this is the best scene in my opinion
Yeah.
in the movie.
I mean, it's just so fascinating, and just the choreography of this. Like, is there not like Zendaya is such a triple threat? Like, I
Yeah.
guarantee she will have multiple Oscars in her future. Whether probably at least one for performing, one for producing, and she's already into directing too. So,
Yeah.
like I guarantee she'll have at least 2 to maybe 3 Oscars in her future. The
Oh, this
outtakes
is
of this moment here where they swing into each other is really funny to watch sometimes because it's all about
I gotta
timing,
watch
right?
these
It's all about
outtakes.
precision
Love
with
that shot.
where it
That
looks like
close
she's
up of
running
her
on the
swinging.
air.
Yeah.
So cool. And once again, this is where that music director energy comes in
Exactly.
because
You know what? If I had
yeah,
directed a scene as good as this, I think I would just quit and be like, yeah,
yeah,
that's enough. I made it. That's all I
yeah,
needed to do. It's really good. And
yeah.
this is
It
what I
has a
mean. If
great
people didn't,
flow.
yeah, it's so well edited.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, are they gonna kiss?
Again, silhouette. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Which once again, it's a great musical or homage to Sound of Music, right? Like the big scene between Captain Von Trapp and Maria Von Trapp is all in silhouette in the gazebo, right?
Yeah, in the
Like that's a
gazebo.
great
Yeah.
little. I don't know if it was a purposeful homage, but like as a musical theater person who knows that type of thing, you're automatic like, oh yeah, Sound of Music. Like you're meant to be, And then of course she walks away.
Beautiful wide shot. They really
Yes,
utilized the
you
wide
feel the
shots in here.
loneliness of
Yeah.
Zac Efron in that moment where he's lost P.T. Barnum. He's now lost this love interest. He's at the bottom. Like this is a great Like you're building up to a really good end of second act in your screenplay, right? Where you're gonna have to get the audience to the lowest possible moment, and we are driving straight into that iceberg.
Yeah.
Where if you set up, the mob is outside with their torches. We've got Peachy Barnum leaving town. Zac Efron's lost his partner. Like, we are seeing the slow trudge toward this ultimate end of Act 2 where everything's going to have to be lost to really propel a good third act of the movie.
Absolutely. I agree completely. And the one thing I noticed in this scene with him and Michelle Williams is they never had them in the same shot in that
Yep.
scene.
You're showing
They
the
kept,
space between them. And also, if
yeah.
you notice, when they arrived at this house, there was, had zebras or like horses painted to look like zebras pulling the carriage. Now it's like a proper red coach with nice horses. Like it
Yeah.
shows the evolution. Like he's stepped up in the world, right?
Yeah.
Oh, see, once again, Michelle Williams is holding the like you. Is she the best vocalist? No, especially when you compare her to like um Lauren Allred, who just sang for Jenny Lynn's character. But the vocally, she still holds it. Like she's
No, she
getting her
does.
emotion
She's
out.
excellent. She's excellent. Yeah. And I don't need things to be perfect. Like,
No.
Russell Crowe is a different story, but
Yeah.
she still delivers
Yeah.
a great performance with the vocals.
Yes.
Again, the empty chair is just
Yeah.
this movie knows, like you said, show don't tell. They know how to
Show
do
me,
it.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then cutting to Hugh Jackman, clapping.
But
It's
he's
great.
clapping for Jenny Lynn, not his
Exactly.
daughter.
The use of montages in this
Mm-hmm.
movie are incredible.
Yeah.
And Zach's in taking responsibility.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's something I didn't notice before, but they shove a pillow under the large man's belly to make him look
Yeah, I
bigger,
saw
right?
that.
Like once again, that's horrible. Like not a good thing. Like
Yeah.
let's expose these overweight people.
Oh, great. I
Yeah.
love it when they take the sound away.
Yes.
What a cut.
And of course, we have 2 different audience reactions, right? We have
Yeah.
the Jenny Lind, everybody clapping for joy, and then we have people like literally throwing food and shouting horrible things at the performers back at the museum.
Yeah,
I love Michelle
and I
Williams'
love how
performance
she's
here.
dancing like she danced when they were young, when they were
Yes.
younger on the rooftop.
Yeah.
I think she's been wearing a similar dress.
Yeah, the spinning of the dress.
Hmm.
This is what I mean. I think this movie's very underrated. It's not only a fantastic script that you could look at for structure, the silhouettes, the window. That's Little Women definitely took from this shot.
Yeah.
They definitely did.
Love this, the drape that goes and then it's like
And then she's gone. He
the
disappears. Oh my gosh! Like
So smart.
this
Once
is
again,
visual
music video.
storytelling.
It's the music video montage.
Yeah,
Like,
but it's not
so-
done in a cheesy or corny way. It's done in such a truthful way.
Yeah. Oh, I love that too. Where it's
Yeah, and they're staring at each other in the mirror. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Yeah. And I just think this movie doesn't get. It's like we were talking about. I'm not comparing it to The Godfather. Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm not comparing it to Citizen Kane. The movie has its flaws, but
Paddington.
yeah, for visual storytelling purposes, I think this is a great watch, and people
It's
can
a
study
really
this
great
film on how to tell a story.
Yeah. And you see, like, this is the problem is, in reality, this woman was not like this.
Yeah.
Like, historically speaking, she did not have an affair with P.T. Barnum. Like, she was a very charitable woman. Like there was a very clear, different person. So the fact they gave this character this woman's name, but then totally fabricated all this and misrepresented her. Like, I can see why her descendants got mad about this, because it's like, this is not who she was, and yet people are going to take this as fact. And it's like, not.
And no matter what, we're gonna think of her in a negative way, right? We don't want him to end up with her.
Yeah, her character's the other woman who's come in to wreck the home of Michelle Williams.
Yeah, and it's not like he's hitting on her; she's clearly hitting on him. I mean, from what we see, at least, right? So they're trying to make it look a certain way.
Yes.
But I still like that we understand where she's coming from. She's not a villain.
Yes.
A human being.
I also just love the fact they gave her red hair. Like, it's such a great visual look of her characters have that great, like, red hair. Like, it just catches your eye.
Yeah, it's that fire. It's kind of that spark maybe he was missing in his, or thought he was missing in his life.
Arguably, red hair is also minority.
That is true. Speaking as somebody with red hair, we are a minority gene.
But if you noticed in some of the posters of Jenny Lind, she was a brunette on the poster.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, she was.
And then she has this beautiful red hair in person.
Yes. Hugh Jackman does so much with, like, once again, just the looks he gives.
Yeah, his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says so much.
Does she have that hair in Dune?
And of course, she beckons him to come on. And here we go. This is going to be the really bad historically inaccurate moment here, where they're going to kiss.
And she kind of ruins his career here, right? Like, she kind of...
Yeah.
Like, she knows what's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
Again,
goodbye.
like, that's a major historical inaccuracy. That
Yeah.
did not happen, and that's where this film is taking historical, like, liberties to the point where it's not good. Oh, here we go. Shuler Hensley, who was a friend of Hugh Jackman. He played Judd Fry in Oklahoma. He was just playing Marcellus in The Music Man on Broadway. He was Frankenstein in Van Helsing.
Oh, this guy?
This guy here.
Her brother is an act. Her brother's been in stuff too. I recognize Zendaya's brother from a few things.
Oh crap! Here we go.
Yeah, that's when they burn it down, right? Sorry, spoiler alert. Yeah. The battle cry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's like I think it's moments like this in the
Yeah.
film where I could see why people
Hmm.
might think it's a bit cheesy here and
Yeah.
there, right? With the cheese factor of them,
Hmm.
like, oh, there's a fight breaking out and they're
Yeah.
flipping around with all the fight stuff, but
Yeah.
it's part of the
I mean,
charm
I
of
think
it.
what my issue with that was that it showed the performers who are different, and it makes them exotic fighters, like the guy with
Yeah,
who had all the
like the
tattoos. Like, of course,
flip
he comes and does
around.
a trapeze flip and takes him out. The
Yeah,
other guy who's an overweight man comes in and uses his belly to fight.
yes, yeah.
Right?
It's like
Like it's kind of like
no,
it's like a Disney like Beauty and the Beast where like where
yeah,
like the wardrobe jumps off a balcony and smashes a guy into the ground, right? Like it's
yeah,
that exotic kind of,
exactly.
instead of taking that fight for what it really is, which is this is a horrible situation where in reality
Yes,
these people are getting beat up and abused
yeah.
and they're
They
losing
could
their
have gone into
home
the
in this
darkness a bit
fight.
more of that.
But it's making into this comic like, ha ha, let's roll
Yeah,
and fight them, like it's like no, this is not a
yeah. It makes it too light sometimes. It needs to
yeah,
go into a bit of that darkness.
yeah,
But I know it's a family friendly
yeah,
film, and I'm sure they were like
mhm,
figuring out like what
yeah,
where the angle is on this and
mhm,
how far do we go. But I
yeah,
think you should have seen a bit
mhm,
more.
yeah. And of course, this is a great end to Act Two now, where things
Yeah,
are literally burning to the ground. Like,
yeah. Great visuals too with the
yes,
fire. Really well done.
yeah. And this did historically happen. The museum
Yeah.
did burn down. This was a real thing. We don't know what caused the fire. So this
Did
is where I
anyone
don't
die?
mind them taking a little bit of historical license here, where it's like, yeah, the bad people burned it down.
Yeah.
It's like, fine, nobody knows what really happened. There is no it burned down. So take that historical moment and then use it as you see fit to tell your story, because nobody's going to say otherwise, versus like, let's have him kiss, like, let's have Jenny Lind kiss him. And that's not, and there's very clear media presence that shows that did not happen,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's where that line is, right? It's like, but like, oh, this is such a sad scene.
Yeah. Oh, the
I
elephant
mean,
in the back.
yeah. Once again, they have the elephants. They don't show the whale that boiled
Beautiful.
alive
That
in the fire.
wide. The wide with the elephants and the fire is
Yeah.
incredible.
Hmm.
I'm not sure who the cinematographer was on this. So that's embarrassing that I don't know that. But
I can look that up.
whoever you are,
It was, let's see.
amazing job.
Cinematography was by Seamus McCarvey, who's from Italy, and he was nominated for Atonement. He also did Anna Karenina.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He also did We Need to Talk About Kevin, Nocturnal
Hmm.
Animals. He's done quite a bit of work with Ridley Scott as well. Roger Deakins. He's worked with Roger Deakins.
So
So
this guy knows what he's doing,
yeah,
clearly.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah, I can see the Atonement and Anna Karenina,
yeah, Karenina.
vibes.
Yeah.
Right.
This is such a beautiful, heartfelt scene that just had with Zendaya and Zac Efron.
Hmm.
That was a beautiful moment there.
One thing I noticed, I just saw that wide of Hugh Jackman picking up stuff
Hmm.
in the wide of. I know they didn't. Obviously, they probably shot this on a green screen,
Yeah.
but it never feels that way. Like it never feels
No.
fake.
Mhm.
It holds up really well.
Yeah.
Also, great scene with him and the critic because I like that it's just not some subplot that never
Yeah.
takes precedent or anything. Like this is
Yeah.
nice that it comes to like a nice close.
Hmm. Humanizing the critic, so it's not just a complete villain.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they share a little drink on
Mhm.
the steps.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's his like PT is like his muse, and
Yeah.
like that's why
Yeah.
he's so interested in this whole story arc.
Yeah.
Yes.
Putting folks of all kinds on stage, all colors, shapes, sizes.
So the actor who plays the critic his performance is quite underrated in this film. I think he does a
Yeah.
great job.
Yeah, who's the actor who plays the critic in this? It's oh, what's his name? It's
It's like he's coming face to face with his hero at the lowest point. He's just like humanizing him.
yeah.
Whereas before he was on the pedestal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's the picture.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
You can see a lot or something.
Barnum Scandal. Now, I don't know who plays the critic in this. Can't see him.
Hats off to the makeup team too. They do like with
Yeah.
all the work with
Mhm.
the ash and soot on him. I know that's such a small little detail that no one really thinks about, but
Yeah.
they did a really good job with the makeup and hair in the movie.
Yeah. I also love that we're now basically back to where their relationship started. He was the poor boy in the dirt, in the muck, and
Wow,
she
yeah,
is, you know, back up back up looking like a society lady.
great point. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. See, something else I didn't notice until now.
Is blue supposed to signify like royalty or money or something? Because
It could be emotional
she's like
too.
always wearing blue in this movie.
Hmm.
Well, she was pink at the beginning, wasn't she?
She
She
wasn't
wears
pink
pink
and blue at the
blue.
beginning. She was in blue, and then she goes to pink for a bit, and then she's back to blue. But I
Maybe it's
definitely
like her
think
mood.
blue was her color. It's definitely a society color because blue was a royal color. It's a
Hmm.
rich color. It's not. It was not an easy to dye fabric color. So you know, definitely fits that social class there. And once again, historical inaccuracy here, where they never divorced or she never left him. So P.T. Barnum's wife, that is, she stayed with him until she died. So now you're getting into a whole other historical inaccuracy where, like, you're like because you made the choice to make Jenny Lind and the kiss happen, you now have to create ramifications for that, which are also historically inaccurate to the film.
Yeah.
So it's like the ripple effects of that choice creates more problems for you. When it's like, we didn't need the breakup storyline. We didn't need the kiss. Just have P.T. Barnum realize I don't need to be here. I'm needed back home.
Yeah.
And he leaves Jenny and that's it. And she goes, I don't like it, but I'll accept it. Whatever. Find something else. You don't need a kiss to drive them apart. Like,
Yeah, I don't think we needed the kiss either.
no, the kiss was not necessary. It was one of those old Hollywood tropes.
And the circus.
I love this scene, and I love the
Yeah.
shots of him alone by himself too. When the shorter
Yeah,
person
the other
comes
person,
up
yeah.
the bar and sits
Yeah.
on the hat, and yeah,
Yes.
I personally love just like seeing he realizes he's at the lowest point in his
Mhm.
life because he's driven all the people who are truly closest to him so far away, and he needs that. He realizes he needs those people back again, and that's what. And like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tear up looking at this the pain in his eyes, and it's like just him realizing that. I love this scene in this movie.
It's such a human scene, right? It's the like this is where Hugh Jackman shines as an actor. This is a genuine painful moment for him. And anytime he has to do a scene like this, like even dare I say, when you watch X-Men: The Last Stand and he has to kill Jean Grey, and you feel the
yeah, he
pain in
gets
his
it
face when
all.
he does that. Like that movie
Well,
is
look at
not a good
Logan.
movie, but Hugh Jackman gives the
Yeah,
emotional weight, and that's the power of him. Like when he's dying as Jean Valjean at the end of that movie, I can't help but tear up watching him in that scene because he is giving his heart, and this is what he's giving here.
Oh, well, Valjean's death is
Yeah.
beautifully done, and he's so
Yes.
good in it. Hugh
Yeah.
Jackman, he just delivers in everything.
He
He's
does. He
amazing.
does. Like no matter what he does, like sometimes he's not the best singer. Like sometimes you can tell he was singing for 8 hours a day and his voice just wasn't there when he needed it to be there. Looking at the scene and Bring Him Home, where it's not a great vocal performance for him in that. But if you watch him later on in his concerts, he sings it beautifully because he's not singing
Yeah,
it for 8 hours. But anyway, but I
he
love the
takes the
reflection of him
score
in the mirror
too.
here. Yeah,
The
where he's
score, this song is so good.
mhm.
That shot with him and his family gets me every time.
Like this is such a once again, just like This Is Me, right? This is an anthem. Like you feel it in the heart, and when you watch him sing this with Kayla Sato at the producer's performance, you feel that in his heart, right? Like he is singing this, and everybody's feeling it with him. Like this just gives you chills in all the right ways.
Yeah.
Like this is the American dream story. Like it's all about the yeah, you fail, but you get back on that horse and you fight for it. And I love the choreography, that bounce and you hit in the arms. Like it's that classic kind of like like brother military arm shake, that the Romans did where they clasp the forearm.
It's just it needs to be on stage.
Yeah. I guarantee there's somebody's working. I mean, if we just
It's
got
got to be
Moulin
Circus
Rouge
Soleil.
on Broadway, this is going to come to Broadway. Such good choreography.
Yeah, she's crying. Told you she would.
We feel you, Katie. We feel ya.
You hear sobs in the background. It's her.
It's this scene that gets me every time.
Oh, I love when he runs out the door.
This story in this
home to
movie.
his family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great shot.
Yeah. Hugh Jackman's such a great runner in movies. He's like Tom Cruise when he runs in movies.
Yeah, yeah. And he
I
reaching forward
I love the
and he
reaching
reaches.
as well. Like it just
The shot of the train is amazing. Yeah. Like they had a really good budget for this movie. It's insane.
And this is what you need to end this movie, right? Like this. I think this is one of the few times. I think it's one of the last times we see the bearded lady and all that cast. So you need to leave them on a positive note. You can't leave them with their home burned down on the sidewalk. Like you can't leave the movie that way. So they give him a really good send off. And Zendaya, oh my goodness, the amount of emotion she's giving here, she's like dewy eyed. And of course,
yeah, they're so good in this.
And I love just the quiet, lilting music in the background.
I love the part with him and his wife coming up at the beach.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I also, despite the seriousness and happiness of the scene, I just find it again kind of funny with the whole historical inaccuracy. Like, he's like, yeah, we're all cool guys, and then he's like, peace, and he just
Peace
leaves
out.
all his like workers. I'll see you later. Yeah,
I'll come back for you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the kids are so.
I love how the dad wasn't going to tell him where she was, and the kids are like, "She's at the beach." It's like, it's like the kids got nothing here. And of course, she's in the blue, and she's on the beach again, where they start the movie. Like, great bookends here to the film.
And they sing the same song in the beginning.
Yeah. Like that's really good screenwriting, is when you can you start at a point and you end at a point and they just perfectly bookmark each other. Like, you're right, Jamie. This is such a good piece of screenwriting to study because it does so much and it's so well composed.
If I ever teach, I would use this as an example because it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like it makes me want to be a better writer watching something like this because it's just so well thought out and placed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So screenplay was by Jenny Bix and Bill Condon, and Jenny also did the story outline for this as well. So, but I mean, Bill Condon's such a great screenwriter. Like, he adapted Chicago, which is so much better than the stage show, the film version with Rob Marshall. He did Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
Directed that, wrote the screenplay for
Bill
it.
Condon, the screenwriter.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the music swells, and I love the flowing scarf. Like, such a great old Hollywood image. Like, that could be plucked
Yeah, with
right
the
out of
sunset
like old
behind
Hollywood.
them. Yeah.
I guess the sequel could be about them being in the circus versus in the museum.
Yeah, or maybe traveling the world with the
Yep.
circus.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they go to Paris.
Yep. There's a whole other plot point there with what happened with the circus.
Yeah.
I just feel like all the relationships got tested in this movie that
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have to create more conflict in the next
True.
one.
Maybe they give more time to Zac Efron and Zendaya and their racial discrimination storyline in the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd
Who
watch
knows?
that.
Like, I definitely can see. I mean, this movie also made a lot of money, so I can see why the film, like, Disney wants to do a sequel to this now that they have the rights to it. Like, this is like, and Hugh Jackman said he'd come back for a sequel as well because was his passion project. So I can see why they
Don't
would
get me
want
wrong,
this.
I would love to see a sequel.
Yeah, I would too. It would have to be the same composers. It would have to
Oh
be
yeah,
a
you need to
good
bring back
story.
everybody for this.
But I think it's been enough time
Mhm.
where. But again, I've heard Hocus Pocus 2 took a long time to come out, and apparently
Almost
it was
30
bad.
years. It took almost 30 years for that one to come. And it was a great, I mean, once again, it's not an Oscar-winning movie, but it's
Oh, you
fun. It
liked
is
it?
what
Okay.
it did what it needed to do.
Okay. See, I didn't see it. I've heard mixed things, but we're watching Disenchanted next Friday.
I'm so
I don't know if
excited
that's
for
going to be good.
Disenchanted.
I hope they do a good job. They waited long
I
enough.
think they
So
will. The trailers look really good. Once
yeah,
again, you go in like you have to know what you're going in for. Like Disenchanted, we know what it's going to be. It's going to be
Mhm.
it's going to be playing off all the old Disney tropes, right? That's what Enchanted did. So we're going to play into that again.
Yeah.
So, like, and here we go. So now we set up. They're at the circus.
Oh, so cool.
Yep. And once again, we're back to that moment that we saw in the very opening of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we're right back to where we started. His dream became a reality.
And it's kind of like Hugh Jackman's dream became a reality in a way
Yeah.
too, because it's his dream project.
Yes.
You know, I say the screenplay is so good, but
Yeah.
what makes the screenplay so good is the music. The
Yes.
music in it that can
Mhm.
carry these plot points
Yeah.
through it. It's
Mhm.
genius.
Mhm.
I wish I saw this in theaters back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, we got Moulin Rouge into a stage show. So if we can get that, we will definitely get this.
Well, they should do Circus Olay with this. They should combine it.
I mean, I probably like Cirque du Soleil a little bit more. Not that I don't love Cirque
Yeah.
du Soleil. I do. But I do like the spectacle of the acrobatics only gets me going for so long. You can have a full show
Exactly.
like this.
A story that enhances the acrobatics.
Yeah.
I love that
And of course,
anthem.
Kayla Sato just killing it with that.
Yeah.
With her
This is a
vocal
cute
chops. Mm-hmm.
The literal passing of the torch.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the thing is, Zac Efron isn't based off of the real partner that P.T.
Okay.
Barnum worked with. But that's okay. Because once again, they didn't give him the partner's name. They gave him a different name. And I'm like, that's what you need to do throughout this whole movie.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
name her Jenny Lynn. Name her something else. like
Yeah.
like historical films do that all the time where they amalgamate characters into one person.
Yep.
Like
Absolutely.
Like you can do that. Like that's much stronger than because then you avoid the whole conflict of you're messing with historical people and their lives and what they went through. Like Zendaya's character is based off another very famous acrobatic performer who was with P.T. Barnum, but she didn't get the name because it was a German woman who was in real life. So they didn't give her the same name.
They should have
which is
switched the
fine.
names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just change the names and don't mess it up. Don't mess it up.
It's a nice ending too.
And of course, he shows up on an elephant.
Yeah. Hopefully, he didn't crush anyone along the
I mean,
way.
what a great marketing gimmick right there. Not sure how well elephants do in the snow though.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like I feel like there's a PETA problem there.
Yeah, slight animal abuse taking the
Yeah.
elephant into the snow.
Well, that was one of the reasons why it shut down in 2017, right? It was after I think 142 years of running the Ringley P.T. Barnum circus um, uh, shut down. One of the reasons was because of charges of animal abuse.
Sad.
And of course, the daughter is the prima ballerina. She made her dream come true, but she worked for it.
Yeah,
Didn't fake it.
that's a plot line I don't think of a lot with
And
that.
the other one's a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a tree. So cute.
That's such a classic kids role in any play.
Yeah.
We've all been trees.
I mean, that's the great subplot in the musical Gypsy is Gypsy Rose Lee or Louise spends the whole first act being the back end of a cow. Or is she the back end? No, she's the front end of the cow. But either way, she plays a cow. Like, and that's just such a great running joke throughout the piece. Oh, then we've got a quote from him. The noblest art is that of making people happy, or others happy.
Yeah, they might have not. They maybe shouldn't have put that there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But no, once
Yeah.
again, great movie. Like,
Excellent movie.
like historical inaccuracies aside, this is a great American dream movie. It knew
Yes,
what
it
it
is.
was, and it owned that. I mean,
It's very wholesome.
it's very old school. This is like Golden Age Hollywood classic movie.
I didn't know James Mangold was an executive producer on this,
Yes.
so he did Logan.
Yes.
Interesting.
I'm sure
They
Hugh
had 3
Jackman
editors.
talked to him and was like, "Here, come and produce this."
Okay, they had 6 editors. That's crazy.
I can see that with the amount of footage they probably had to go through.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
probably
good point.
needed at least 6 editors to like cut it all together.
Yeah, they probably each tackled like a section of it, or
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
But
What
hey,
am I
when you got 6 editors, 6 different eyes, and yet you still create a cohesive film, that is
It's
an
impressive.
accomplishment. Because
Yeah.
once again, when we talk about things like David Ayer's Suicide Squad that had like 4 different editors, that movie
And
was a
they didn't
mess.
do a very good job.
It
Yeah.
didn't do well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so yeah, when the sequel comes, Jamie, we will definitely do a follow up,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
We'll do a follow up for
Yeah.
sure.
But
I never
where can
noticed
people
this
find
album.
and follow you, though?
I'm sorry?
Where can people find and follow you?
Okay, yes. You can follow me on my Instagram, Jamie
Mhm.
Knox Films, where you can see some of the stuff we've been doing for our film coming out in 2023, The Pine
Love
Still
it.
Whisper, my first
Yeah.
feature. And just thank you so much for having me on and Katie on this podcast.
Yes.
We had a fantastic time watching one of our favorite movies, and just
Love it.
we love talking film, and I love talking film with you. It's been great.
Yes.
I will come
We'll
back
definitely have
for
you
a
back.
guest appearance. Yes.
For other movie musicals. There's a whole bunch we can go through, so we will definitely find another one for us to do. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, maybe you and I will do the producers. That could be a fun one to do with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick. That's a fun one. We could do that one. We could. There's a whole bunch of ones we can do. So you and I will talk off mic on that one. But before we go, though, Jamie, give us your final thoughts. Does the movie still hold up after our discussion, or are you rethinking your appreciation for it? Like, where are you standing?
No, I think it gets better every time. Honestly, I think the acting's incredible, the screenplay, the writing and structuring of where they put music in the film and how they tell story with music, the editing, the shots. It's a really great, high quality production, and I think it's a standalone. I think it's gonna stand the test. Maybe not stand the test of time, but I think it's gonna be a film that gets better with age and time, and I think it's definitely going to become maybe a bit of a classic as a musical.
I agree.
I think it's very underrated.
I agree. Like, yeah, this is going to definitely generates a conversation. The music is going to stand up. I mean, if I'm ranking the 3 projects that we know these composers for, Dear Evan Hansen, La La Land, and this. Greatest Showman is my like preferred soundtrack of theirs by far.
For sure.
I mean, the character. I mean, when it's just so. The moments that they really create in this are so powerful. Like just the use of montage at the beginning with A Million Dreams, to
Mhm.
seeing the kids grow up, to then them becoming the adults with Hugh Jackman and Michelle Williams. You automatically end up rooting for them. Same thing with like Rewrite the Stars, right? Like the film does such a good job of very quickly getting you invested in these people's stories, which is
Yes.
not an easy task. People think it's easy to
No.
do that one magic shot where Zendaya swings up in Zac Efron's Caesar and they're attracted to one another. That is not an easy thing to write without it making it cheesy. But yet when you have
It's
good
not.
performers and you build to that moment in the story, you're like, okay, you have the right recipe. But it's not an easy recipe to concoct. It can come across really hokey really fast. And this
Trust
film
me, I'm
walks
trying
a
to learn
very
that
tough
recipe.
line.
I will find that recipe one day. I'm
I
still
am
seeking.
sure you will. I'm sure you got it already. It's just one of those things where you got to have the right editor, the right cast,
Yeah.
the right
The right
story
amount of
build up to
money.
that moment, right?
Yeah.
It's like people forget with good filmmaking, it's not just one good decision makes a good film. It's 1,000 good decisions
Exactly.
ultimately make a good film. Like no filmmaker ever goes into a project going, I want to make a bad movie. Even
Yeah.
Tommy Wiseau with The Room never set out to make the movie he did. It just so happened that he made that movie.
Yeah. He
Right?
made the greatest comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the same thing here. Like Hugh Jackman championed this project because he saw the potential it had. And he worked it because, like P.T. Barnum, he had the dream.
Yeah.
And that is the American story in everybody, right? Like that is what America's built off of, is that you keep working at it and you keep fighting for it, and you'll ultimately will pay off for you somewhere, somehow. You'll get the payoff you're desiring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, you can follow me at Mackenzie on all social media platforms. Stay tuned. We got some more live movie musical commentaries coming your way. So we look forward to seeing you at our next one as we continue to work on getting season 5 ready for you, probably in the new year. So there we go. All right. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you all in the next episode. Have a great evening. Bye.
Bye, everybody.